The chiefs of the US and UK security agencies held an unprecedented press conference and issued a joint warning against China in early July this year. The heads of the FBI and MI5 alleged that China posed a long-term threat to economic and national security. China, for its part, called the accusations groundless. But the wind against China has been blowing for quite a while now, and accusations of cyber attacks and spying are also not new. China's biggest tech company, Huawei, has seen its 5G business prospects being blunted across the world, especially since the US has been actively pressing its allies to ban the company's equipment from their national 5G networks. India became more circumspect after the border clashes with China. It has joined a growing number of Western countries that have shut out China from 5G. In May, Canadian wireless carriers were barred by their government from using Huawei or ZTE equipment in their 5G networks. The US, Britain, Australia, and New Zealand, who are members of the Five Eyes Intelligence Sharing Alliance, along with Canada, had also previously banned Huawei from their respective 5G networks. This is the result of years of US lobbying with its allies. In fact, the US has gone so far as to warn them that it would reconsider intelligence sharing with any country that uses Huawei gear over fears of Chinese cyber espionage. In 2018, the Japanese government effectively banned Huawei and ZTE from official contracts. Sweden, too, banned Huawei and ZTE from its 5G network in 2020. In India, Chinese telecom gear makers were not permitted to participate in the 5G rollout. Given that the Chinese accounted for 20% of India's 4G gear market and Huawei's position as a global 5G leader, it is not a far-fetched idea that Chinese vendors could have cornered a sizable share of the gear market for the next generation networks. And now, Indian telecom companies have effectively shut out China's Huawei and ZTE from their 5G rollouts. In early August, Bharti Airtel signed agreements with telecom equipment majors Nokia, Ericsson, and Samsung to commence 5G services deployment across India. Reliance Jio, which had opted only for Samsung for 4G, was reported to be in talks with Ericsson and Nokia apart from Samsung. The company has already conducted 5G trials with Ericsson and Samsung. Jio is planning to offer 5G across 9 cities by January, most likely starting with Mumbai and Delhi later this year. Huawei and ZTE will also be phased out of Airtel's 4G network to be replaced by Ericsson, Nokia, and Samsung. Being barred from India translates into a considerable loss for Chinese firms, as Airtel alone has signed multi-year 5G equipment deals worth close to $2.5 billion. Analysis Mason, a TMT management consulting firm, recently told a Financial Daily that Jio, Airtel, and Vodafone Idea could spend anywhere between $18 billion to $22 billion over the next 5 years to upgrade and expand their networks to roll out 5G. Freezing out Chinese vendors will have an impact on Indian 5G networks because Huawei equipment tends to be less expensive than alternatives from Nokia and Ericsson.
Clearly, it will increase the cost of 5G rollout if these two companies are excluded. One, of course, has to appreciate the reasons, namely security reasons that have been cited. I think the impact will actually not be seen in the immediate future, but maybe slightly later. In the initial stages, 5G will be essentially used by enterprises and industry. And one can reasonably assume that those sections are less price sensitive than the average consumer is. So the ability of the telcos to pass on some of the costs to the industry is that much more easy, which is something that may pose a bit of a challenge when you're talking about rolling out the service to a larger population. As we've always known, that if the cost of the operators goes up, whether it is through more expensive equipment or overpriced spectrum, the losers are eventually those users or those sections of the users community which are slightly more difficult to serve because they are not particularly commercially attractive.
However, India's government and telcos are willing to absorb this impact owing to security concerns. The Indian Army plans to use 5G services to enhance communication among its frontline troops. Industry 4.0 applications will also require 5G, which will be used for setting up captive private networks to enhance efficiency at critical infrastructure like seaports and airports. Overall, there is a scope for setting up more than 150 captive private wireless networks in India. However, Huawei has won 5G contracts in Russia, the Middle East, Africa and Asia, including the Philippines and Thailand. South Africa will also be using Huawei equipment. Brazil has said that it won't exclude Chinese firms from bidding for 5G contracts. Meanwhile, Norway has decided against a ban, leaving individual companies with the right to choose. Huawei also has a presence in Singapore. The battle lines have been drawn. However, the real question is this: can India really secure its interests, both military and geostrategic, when China continues to extend its lead in strategic communication and IT technologies?
If you like this video, share it and subscribe to Business Standard. For more news, views and insights, log on to www.business-standard.com. Do also follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Telegram and LinkedIn.